Thank you very much, Michael. Let me just start off, first of all, by thanking PRCA. You guys are doing a phenomenal job, especially here in the region. A quick shout out to Haley for all that she's been doing in a very short period of time. It's really it's much needed now that we sort of develop the skills of the people in this part of the world when it comes to PR. It is still a developing industry, and there's so much room for growth, and there's fantastic potential as well, which I've seen also firsthand. I think in this current crisis that we're living through right now, and I thank you also for hosting me today, Michael. It's really a pleasure for me to be on call with you. Last time when I spoke about when I was on the virtual international summit at PRCA last 2 months ago, there was a lot of interest of what's happening in this part of the world, and you also touched base on this today. And what's interesting is, especially, I mean, I'm going to be maybe focused a bit more on the UAE and Dubai in particular, because it is kind of like a model in this part of the world, and there's a lot of countries and cities that are trying and striving to replicate the Dubai model. We try to keep it towards the comms industry, but people need to remember that the UAE is only 49 years old. We're not even 49. We're going to be celebrating 49 years in a few months. They've only been through a few crises. Some of us, I'm not going to say how old I am, but some of us are as old as this country is. So we've witnessed maybe 4 major crises in the last 49 years in this part of the world. And so, Jumana, I think you need to switch your mic off. Thank you. All right. Anyway, so basically, how they have dealt with it from a comms perspective is actually quite commendable. Having not had a lot of experience with the crisis in general, what happened here in the UAE, and let's not forget, it's a country made up of 7 different emirates, kind of like the US, but a mini version of that. But what's interesting is how they handled it from a comms perspective. This is what made the difference, I think, in the UAE when it comes to handling this pandemic, and when we compare it with other parts of the world, globally and regionally. Dubai specifically has embraced public relations, or PR, government affairs, let's call it, or public affairs, I'm sorry, in a fantastic way. They understand the importance of brand equity, and this is what they've done with Dubai. They've actually treated it as a brand, and that's why I think whenever they're faced with certain situations that are unprecedented, they kind of have a manual or like a guidebook that they can go to because of what they've learned across the years. I was speaking to you, I think, a couple of days ago, and I told you it's been 4 or 5 months now that we've been in this crisis here, specifically in the UAE, with rules and regulations and whatnot. But we have never heard the word lockdown, although we had one, but they never used that term because of its negative connotation. They called it a national sterilization program. When you call it a program, you allow it to have a time frame that is, that you can set. That's very smart. When you call it a national sterilization program, it means that everyone is involved, and that this is not just about the government. This is about the entire society. It's stuff like that that's very interesting. Dubai specifically, what worked very well, I feel, is the messaging. Okay, and you know how important it is when it comes to messaging, when it comes to PR. They were on message. It was very clear that before they started the communicating sort of activities, that there was a bit of a sort of an area or a timeline or frame where things were still up in the air. But then we started to hear from the government, and it became actually quite systematic. We used to get updates from them live on TV every day at 9:30 and on the radio. Broadcasting would stop, and we get public messaging straight and live from the mouth of the government. They would do it systematically. They would do it sometimes at 2:30 p.m. or at 9:30. We would get consistent messaging, the branding, the way it looks. With this, they had a logo for the National Sterilization Program. There was a committee made. So the way they handled it is actually a learning for PR professionals on how to do it on a country scale. Thank God we are in a much better position now from a healthcare perspective. Yesterday was the first time in the UAE that they recorded 0 deaths. So, thank God for that. And I wish that everyone tuning in today is safe and healthy. And I wish that all countries are going to post 0 deaths very soon, and this pandemic will end soon. But what also helped, I think, is what I want to touch upon. What I want to touch upon today is the digital era. It really helped in giving a chance to governments and to corporations and to brands to get the message across and sort of instigate quick response from people. If we didn't have what we had now, the setup here, especially in the UAE, the technology, the infrastructure of IT, I think it would have been difficult to get people to abide by laws and have a control over content as well. The internet is there's billions and trillions of content going out every day, and you can easily fall into a trap of getting yourself hooked onto fake news. I think the UAE has done a great job in controlling that because of the trust that they've built with their target audience early on through consistent messaging, through being on, giving credible information, facts, figures. And there was also the implication of laws and regulations and fines, which people sometimes need to abide by the law. Anyway, going back to digitization, what's very interesting is the reason that we feel that we've done a good job here, not just from a government perspective, from a private sector and public sector perspective as well, because we as CMB, we represent government and private sector, is the digital infrastructure that we have here and the way we were quick in adopting it. And this was happening through the years. I can tell you maybe 3 years ago, public relations in the Middle East, especially even in Dubai, as advanced as it is, the industry wasn't as developed maybe as the city was. We were probably, I would label us as press offices. We were press offices. We were a representative of the client, and we were just tasked with managing the press office when it comes to collateral such as biographies and background profiles and bios and press releases, and we were the mediators between them and the media, and that was really it, to be honest. Things started to shift, I would say, 3 years ago, or even more, but it became recognizable, I would say, 3 years ago, where we started to shift our service or what we bring to the table, and we started to get into the actual bottom line and influencing the strategy and influencing the overall brand persona, if you may, of certain brands. And I think what helped recently is the digitization of our industry, and that's what's fantastic. So where are we now? I think we're in a good place, to be honest with you, in the Middle East, especially in the UAE. This pandemic has its pros and cons. One of its pros, I always say, is that it challenged us. It put us in a tight spot that we were cornered. There was no way to escape this. And we had to think quick, we had to act fast, and we had to utilize our resources, both physical and mental, to be able to deal with this. And luckily, because of that shift that I spoke to you about 3 years ago, it all came into play in the last 4 months. And it was a test to see, have we evolved enough? Have we developed enough as an industry in the Middle East? Do we have the right tools? Do we have the right minds? Is the audience in the right sort of area as well? And where are our clients when it comes to dealing with all this? So in a nutshell, I think it was a positive experience from many aspects. There's so many aspects to it. One of the most important ones is like how we had to shift to quickly working from home. We literally had a week to wrap up our work in the office, and then just, each of us living in different even cities in the UAE, and some of us even in countries. We've had employees who were stuck outside and couldn't come back, and they've been operating from their home countries. So that worked quite well. The infrastructure was there. The government quickly gave us tools to support working from home, whether it's internet speed and whatnot. But I think also the working from home, of course, you'd have to utilize the digital resources that you have. You're not going to be doing anything physically on the ground, right? You're not going to be doing events. You're not going to be hosting one-on-one meetings. You're not going to be, getting an interview with your client on air in a TV station. So we had to go online, and agencies that were set up with the proper back office when it comes to creative services, when it comes to the digital know-how, when it comes to the understanding of how to utilize social media, were the agencies and were the clients that benefited the most. And to be honest, I saw some great work take place from multiple brands, multiple clients, multiple agencies here. Very, very happy where we are in the industry. And one thing that what I'm very happy about is some of the things that became very important all of a sudden to everybody. I think I mentioned to you, I'm a very big advocate of thought leadership and CSR and crisis comms. We at CMB have been preaching those three disciplines for many years, way before the digital era even started, because we truly believe in the importance of thought leadership, CSR, and crisis comms all together in safeguarding a reputation of a brand, in helping it connect with its stakeholders, with the impact it can have on its brand equity, and hence, of course, at the end of the day, it will most definitely have an impact on their business and their operations. What happened during this pandemic is people realized the importance of these three. Thought leadership, and when I say thought leadership, I'm not talking about an interview on a TV or in a newspaper and talk to us about how amazing the company is doing and about the returns and the Q1 results. That's not thought leadership. I'm talking about your knowledge, sharing of knowledge, expertise, telling people what you know, and helping them in the situation they're in right now. Talking to your clients, not about your brand and about amazing offers that you have, no, but about what's happening in society and what is your perspective on it and what are you doing to change and to help or to support or. Which brings us to CSR. Everyone started to quickly say, oh, what we have to give back, we have to do some CSR, we have to raise awareness. Yes, of course. And again, we've been saying that for many, many years. A brand that wants to really live up to its reputation and wants its audience to respect it and to engage with it has to also engage with society. And again, I'm not talking about writing a check, telling my client, oh, you have to write a check and give it to a charity. No, great, do that. I'm not against that, of course. Go donate blood, fantastic. But I'm talking about making a difference. Looking at your core proposition. What do you do as a brand, right? And how can you then formulate programs that will then have an impact on society in something that you are an expert in, whether you're in the automotive industry, whether you're in tech, whether you're in education, okay? Think about the entire environment around you. Brands have to now, so what happened in this crisis is brands started to feel so much more that they belong to a society, to a coherent society. And everyone, one of the main messages in this pandemic was come together, stick together, we're all in this together. And brands had to embrace that. And this is what's important. And then, so now brands realized, and of course, crisis comes. People used to shelve it. Oh, no, it's okay. We're doing great. Don't worry. We'll talk about crisis later. It's going to cost us some money. We'd rather save on that right now. You don't save on crisis. You never save on crisis comms. You never save on thought leadership, and you never save on CSR. These three disciplines are, I think people realize how important they are. We're very happy that a lot of our clients embraced it, and we have a great chance now to start sharing this information. And what makes it perfect is the digital era. Now we can host. Look at what we're doing now. We're sharing knowledge. We're sharing expertise. I'm sitting in Dubai. You're sitting in the UK. There are people probably sitting in other parts of the world, which is fantastic. And this is what we're doing now. This pandemic has also revived the certain tactics that maybe were starting to die, such as webinars, such as podcasts. I can tell you, maybe some inside information. CMB is going to launch its first podcast very soon, video podcast. We're very excited about that. It's a mix between, using technology and thought leadership, right? We're going to bring in experts from the industry, from all over the different sectors in the UAE, and have them share their experiences with the audience. And we're going to put it out there on our social channels, and our great digital team will be able to boost it all over the world and get interaction and measure. And that's another amazing thing that is so important in a crisis. How do you measure what you're doing? And this is what technology has given us. This is what the digital era has given us, the ability to actually measure. One thing also is, I spoke about CSR, and again, inside information. I don't want, Maisa might kill me now because I'm spilling all the beans, but we are working on something very special when it comes to CSR. We will announce it very soon. What was interesting is that we worked on this last year. We were supposed to launch it in March, and then the pandemic started. We had to shift, but it was perfect because it's about CSR, and we saw a shift in companies and brands' behaviors. So we had to quickly go back into the what we were doing and just kind of get a sense of how people now reacted to some of the questions we had post or during the pandemic. And this is going to now, it gave us some amazing results, and hopefully we will launch it soon, and it's going to be a very interesting report that it came out for the first time in the Middle East. We're very happy and proud about that. What else do I want to talk about? I want to talk about influencers. Look, it's very important, I think, to understand the impact that influencers can have, especially in a crisis situation. And this is where the word influencer really gets defined. I'm not really, bashing anyone that's doing this out there. Kudos to everyone that's trying. But we've seen the power of social media and how it can really change minds when it is utilized in the right way. I've been giving this example very recently of someone that I've been following, and just to show you how the world is so small and it's connected. A random, I think she's a stand-up comedian in the US. Her name is Sarah Cooper. I don't know if you follow her, Michael.
I don't, but I've heard of the name. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you're very active on Twitter. I see your Indeed. Posts, but I think you should follow her. She's fantastic. She's a comedian. She's going to make you laugh. Oh, look, it's political what she does, but I'm not going to talk about the politics side. I'm going to talk about the comms side of it. She's a stand-up comedian. She got stuck at home. She needs her job is to go out there and interact with people, right? But how does she do it from behind closed doors? And then she saw the whole crave about TikTok and what's this TikTok? And she thought, great, people are getting so much traction on TikTok. Let me get on TikTok. And she did a few dance moves and she sucked big time. And she's like, okay, this is not working. Her comedy shows usually is impersonating people. And she thought, you know what? Let me try to use TikTok to impersonate high-profile people. And she did it with she chose the president of the United States for many reasons, but and she's huge on the internet. In the span of weeks, her Twitter hit 1 million followers in like a week. She was hosted on Jimmy Fallon. She's changing people's perception about the politics of the US just by lip syncing. That's all she does. She goes online, she lip syncs on TikTok, and she does a bit of gestures and she puts it online. And people are engaging like crazy. Look at the amount of influence that is having from a 15-second video. It's crazy. I know that we're maybe running short on time, but maybe some key learnings here is the good place we're in. PR was usually an afterthought. It was usually a let's get the creative team in, let's get the marketing guys in, let's come up with the strategy, let's come up with the direction, let's come up with the tone of voice, whatever, and then tell the PR guys to issue a press release. That's how it used to be. Now I think it's flipped. Now it's like, comms guys, come in, not even come in, we're already part of the equation. To give you a small example, we are now advising clients on business operations. Some of the team members I can see here on the screen, we went to one of our automotive clients and we told them that we need to come up with an offer, a campaign that will allow people to buy a car, but pay 6 months or 7 months down the line. We didn't have the liberty to do that in the past. They would come up with their own campaigns, their own sort of tactics, And we just had to communicate that. But now we get involved in the tactics because we understand what consumer behavior is about and what people are it's all about research and audits and listening. And that's what the digital world has given us, the ability to listen and the ability to measure and to then customize and tailor make our tactics so that they can actually have an impact on the bottom line in business. So this is, I think, where we are now. We've become the main people on the head of the table. I used to say that they used to look for our contact details and, you know, copy us on emails. Now we're on speed dial. You know, just like you have your doctor and your lawyer, you have your PR consultant now on speed dial, because that's the importance that public relations plays right now in everything, in the tech world, in the comms world, in the world of a crisis. And I think this is where we are. I'm very happy where we are in the region as well. But I think one thing that's missing is, I think the region needs to work harder on getting our heritage out more, our culture, our values. Now we have a chance. Everyone's listening. Everyone realized that we are all human beings and we're all in this together. I think it's time for the Arab world to do some PR for itself, to change the certain perceptions out there about the Middle East, about the Arab world, about us as a people, as a culture, as a heritage, as our values, which I'm sure we share with everyone else in this world. And I'm sure if people know more about us in this world and know more about the Arab mentality, I think they will be very pleased to know that we are very like-minded and we're very ambitious people. The UAE is about to launch a probe to Mars very soon. This can tell you the amount of ambition that we have, our drive, that we want to be part of the overall global change. And, you know, and we look forward to do that, but we have to start with ourselves. We really have to start looking at how we can really change this perception. This is one thing that I think we should do in the Middle East that we're actually lacking of. But that's pretty much it. I mean, if there's anything you want to talk about, Michael.
No, absolutely. You left us with a lot of really interesting points, and for me, I suppose I've got a few. I could actually ask more than a dozen questions, but we don't have too much time. But what I'd be really curious to get a sense of is on the influencer market, because you touched on there, and I was wondering, where do you see the influencer market in the Middle East, especially in your specific area, as opposed to here in the UK or in the US? Because I do know Instagram is a big user in the MENA region, but I'd be fascinated to hear sort of where that is. How far advanced is it, or is it still a long way to go? Has the budget been cut back more because of the pandemic? Yeah.
Interesting. Oh, good question. Thanks, Michael. Look, first of all, yes. I mean, again, Dubai, I would say, is at the forefront of influencer marketing when it comes to the region. We've embraced it a long time ago. I can also speak for myself at CMB. We set up an influencer management division within the company years ago. Mesa maybe can give us the exact date, but years ago, 3-4 years ago, we started to identify the influence because we saw the huge development in this discipline and this industry. So it is very important in this part of the world. Yes. What's interesting also, it actually did show the exciting side of the Middle East, you know, because influencers would share their life stories. They would give us a sense of their day-to-day, and people would would get surprised that, oh my God, look at them in Syria or in Iraq. I mean, you know, they're just, you know, fun, exciting, funny people, you know, and that's what I think influencers did to a certain extent. There are certain, you know, negative points. I don't want to get into those, but the positives is the pandemic. Again, one of the pros of the pandemic is if you didn't have a purpose, if you didn't have something that you would really make an impact with and that would resonate with a target audience, you as an influencer will not be able to survive online. And I think what the pandemic did from a positive perspective is that it filtered out some of those, you know, so-called influencers that were out there that were not really giving this discipline its true worth. And I think that's one part of it. The other part is the effectiveness of influencers was also felt in this pandemic, more so now than before. During the crisis, there is no room for you to tell me about certain brands and what to wear, what not to wear. That's not the time for it. Now is the time for it, because now economies are coming back and they've been hit badly. Brands sales have plummeted. Governments have lost tourism and trade and so forth. So now, and we see it happening with Dubai. They're doing a great job with using influencers to reach out as fast and as quick and as vast as possible to all over the world to show them about the safety of coming back to Dubai, the fantastic experience that they might get flying on Emirates and coming into our beautiful terminals here, and exploring the cities, showing the world how we are abiding with amazing rules and regulations, so it's safe for you to come and bring your family. And I've seen some influencers I've seen Dubai Tourism engage with some amazing influencers, and it was very clear how they were using them very strategically to reach certain geographies that they feel are safe now coming into this part of the world here, especially in Dubai. So yeah, I mean, look, one thing that is also very important, I will have to say that we need to really get a bit of more development on when it comes to influencer marketing, is measurement. There has been a lot of fraud, I would say, not intentional, but this is how it is. There were some false and fake numbers and engagements and all that. And now I'm starting to research, I'm looking into it, and there are tools now and softwares and even companies that have set up to give you proper insights and numbers. And you don't have to have 1 million followers. You don't. You just have to have the right audience. That's all it is. And that's what people sometimes forget, especially clients. Oh, she's only got 10,000. Yeah, but they're the right 10,000. Imagine you can speak to 10,000 people that will listen, rather than reach out to 1 million and you've only got 10 listening. Do you know what I mean? And that's what absolutely. Clients need to understand now. And I think we just need to get that sort of the research part, the numbers part right. And I think influencer marketing is here to stay for a few more years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd be curious also here, because you touched on the end about the importance of showing the culture. And is there now a real demand from the consumer that brands really start to stand for something more than just what they're selling? Like here in the UK, in the US, very much there's a real sense that that each company has to live and show that they stand for different social issues. I'd be curious to hear where that is in the regions. Is it at the same level? Is it still in the early beginnings of that, where people are starting to definitely demand more out of the brands that they consume?
Another good question. Thank you, Michael. I think next time I'm going to interview you. So look, again, another positive, honestly speaking, another positive from this pandemic is the brands that embraced the fact that they need to start listening, engaging. Look, what's interesting is clients, and maybe some of the PR professionals out there would know, they would come up with a campaign on social media, and then they would post it, and then they would say, okay, and then a few weeks later, they'd come back with the reports, and the clients say, but where's the engagement? We're not getting a lot of engagement. We need engagement. Yes, of course, I agree. But you also need to engage. You can't expect to go and talk about yourself and say, hey, look at me, look how fancy and great I look. And so what do you think, right? No, that's not, I might do it once, but I'm not always gonna, satisfy your ego, okay? You want engagement, you have to engage. And this is what happened in this crisis. We went out to brands immediately at CMB and told them, listen, it's time now to start lending your thoughts and voice to those needs and to what people need right now. They need information, they need reassurance, they need hope, they need a lot of things, right? So it's not the time now to sit and talk about our sales or about our products or our brands. Now it's about listening and engaging on an emotional, on a human level. To answer your question, I'm trying to, stay diplomatic here. No, we were not as connected with society as brands specifically as maybe the UK and the US. But I think, like I said, it's a positive that came out now. This pandemic has been going on for quite a long time. From an industry perspective here in the UAE, at least 4 to 5 months now with the shift of how we do things because of the pandemic. And it's a very long time. and it's not going away. And I'm seeing another easy 2-3 months of this. So whatever we're doing now and the way and what clients have embraced is going to stay, it's going to stick. It's not going to go away. We didn't just do it over like Ramadan, over 30 days, and it's gone, and we know it's coming back in another year. No, this is everything there's so many things that are going to change after this, and they're never going to go back to the way they were. And one of them is the mentality of brands and clients that, you know what, yes, we need to be more in touch and engaged with society and with community, and we need to do more of that. Yes, we're still not as much as the UK and the US, but it started, and I think it's going to continue, and that's the positive side of it.
That's really great to hear that. And I suppose we're running out of time, so I want to open it up to anyone else. If they do have any questions, to please jump in now before we wrap up. Does anyone have anything to ask?
Yeah. Again, if no one has any questions now, I can always drop you guys my email address, and anyone can drop me an email at any time. I'm always glad. You can also hook me up on LinkedIn, and I can also answer questions there. So yeah, if there's any questions, please feel free to shoot right now. Just make sure you switch your mic on, or you can use the chat, I guess.
Yeah.
Hi Tariq. Hi Michael. Hi Tariq. It's Jaitika. I'm from India. I run my own PR company. I only found this year. So, you know, going back to when you said about CSR, thought leadership, I recently wrote an article that Michael also published on PRCS website. So now I'm wondering, after listening to everything that you've said, I'm wondering, does CSR and profit making go hand in hand? Because it comes a time when the client they're losing their business, but from our side, we are also telling them to make an impact, engage the society. What if the client is telling us, no, how are we going to survive? We don't have any money. So in that situation, how should we deal? Do they go hand in hand, or do we give priority, like first CSR and then profit, or first profit and then CSR? How do we do that?
Okay, thank you, Jaitika. Good luck on your venture.
Thank you.
And your company. So you know, they definitely go hand in hand. Will you see immediate results? No. You know, it's not a sales promotion. It's a long-term effect, and this is what PR is. You know, it's long-term, and that's the beauty about it. This is what companies want. They want long-term. They want reassurances. So to answer your question, first of all, in this sort of age now, there are cost-effective ways of doing CSR. You don't, like I said, you don't have to write checks out. You don't have to give donations. You can just connect on an emotional level with people. You can listen to them and cater to their needs, even if it does not have anything to do with your specialty as a business. Just sharing information that might help someone, reaching out to them, telling them that we are here to support is enough. Sending out an emailer, you know, putting together a social media video that doesn't cost a lot of money these days, just to remind people of the values of brands and what thanking their customers, reaching out. So there's many ways of doing CSR now that is first cost effective and away from the typical sort of philanthropy, let's call it. All right. Now, what happens when you do proper CSR is that your brand becomes affinity with the brand. People start to appreciate the brand because they realize that this brand is not just about profits and is about sales and about greed. There is something more to that, right? Now, once you start building this affinity and once you start building this connection with the brand, okay, that's it. That's what people want. You have to connect with people on an emotional level now. People want experiences. And what people want is and I think all of us share this now, is what's in it for me? Great, yes, you have a great brand, you're doing whatever, this and that, but what's in it for me? Once a brand can get that across to that person, to that client, to that target audience, they've got loyalty. So they might not make money right now, but once business picks up, once the client or this target audience thinks, okay, you know what, I need to purchase something, or I need to download something now, or I need to go somewhere, they're unconsciously, this brand is already part of their thinking. So they will go to this client and purchase something. And that's where the effect comes in. That's where the monetary effect comes in at the end. So certain clients have to now understand that it's very important to invest in your CSR and in your brand equity and affinity to be able to then reap the rewards down the line. And I think what you're doing is fantastic, Jatika. If you want to take this offline later, and I can hear what you've done so far, give you my feedback. You can certainly give me feedback on certain things we're doing here. I'll be glad to. I hope I answered your question.
Passing the emails.